Good morning, welcome everyone. My name is Heather Williams. I'm with the California AfterSchool Network, and we are excited to host today's Fall 2022 ELO program workshop. So we are going to be jumping right in. Let me advance this. So just a quick little recap of the agenda today. We're starting with the welcome, and in just a few minutes, we're going to move into a plenary discussion with some great special guests we have today. We'll have a short break/transition. Then we have about 9 different breakout options for you to choose to dig into some of the more detailed content of ELO-P. And then we'll have a quick closing reflection. And then after that, we actually have optional time for you all to connect with members of your system of support for Expand in Learning. So we'll talk about what that is and make sure you are connected with those folks if you have not had a chance to do that. And that will run until 12:30, and then we will close out. And thank you all for your time. So welcome. Excited to have you all here. As I mentioned, I'm with the California AfterSchool Network. We are excited to co-host this event with our partners at the California Department of Education. And we are also members of the System of Support for Expand in Learning, and happy to co-host with members of the system as well. A lot of them will be hosting your breakout sessions in a little bit. If you're going to be posting on social media today, just a reminder, this is our hashtag that we use. And then before we jump into the content, if you have been to any CAN event, this will probably not be surprising, but we always like to start with just a little bit of grounding, a moment of mindfulness. We do this for all sorts of reasons. In part one, to honor you all as humans doing this work. Educational leadership is no small task. And so giving you all a moment just to have to yourselves. It's likely throughout a day that you do not get much time just for yourself. And it's also allows you, it's 10 o'clock, it's a little after 10. It's possibly already been a little bit of a hectic morning. So maybe you can have a moment to reset, kind of shift gears as we move into this space. And so with that, and this is always an invitation, the next couple minutes are yours, so you can engage in the mindfulness practice or do whatever meets your needs in the moment. But if your cameras are on, feel free to turn those off. And I just invite you to take a moment to get settled into your seat, wherever you are, or if you would like to, feel free to stand up and just kind of stretch around, move a little bit. Notice how you're feeling in your body. If something's tight, maybe you need to roll out your neck a little bit, stretch up your arms, and then just kind of start to get settled where you are sitting or standing. And take one really nice, big, deep breath in, holding it at the top for a moment, and letting it all out. And taking another nice, big, deep breath in, holding it at the top, and letting it all out. And then just take a moment to find the normal pace of your breathing, just listening along, not forcing anything, but just having a moment for yourself. And as you start to listen to your breathing, I'm going to invite you to think about something in your work in the last couple months that you've been really proud of. You've all been working really hard. There's been a lot going on, navigating a lot of challenges, taking advantage of a lot of opportunities, but just taking a moment, something that makes you really proud of the work that you've been doing. And as we go throughout the day, I just invite you to hold on to that thing that came to mind, that feeling, and have that help kind of set a North Star for your work. How does that help set the direction as you continue to gauge this work? And then just take another minute, another nice big deep breath or two, stretching out anything else that might feel a little tight and tense. And then as you are ready, coming back and joining us in the space again. And thank you all. We can do mindful moments in about a minute or two. We can spend more time, but it's always just a nice way to kind of start and reset. Awesome. And so with that, one of the things I do want to share before we transition into our plenary is that we have, I've mentioned it before, but if you are not familiar, we have this wonderful system of support for expanded learning that is here to support you. So we have got, we use the CSESA map, breaking our state into 11 regions, and we have 16 county offices and regional teams all across the state that are here to support you. If you have not been connected with those folks, you can use that link. You can scan the link. It'll take you to contact information and to learn more about our system of support. They are a great system, definitely here for you. And, you know, as we talk about this, you'll have an opportunity to meet and connect with them and learn more about some of the technical assistance and supports that they offer in your region. And just noting, you know, with ELO-P, as we dig into this conversation, it's still a new program. I know we're a year and a half in, but it's still a relatively new program. We're still learning a lot, and we're still building out, you know, a deeper infrastructure to really support you all. So we're kind of all, including our system of support, really in this learning and growing phase, but we definitely are here and want to connect with you all. So with that, I'm going to invite our guests up today. So we've got Michael Funk, the director of the Expanded Learning Division of CDE. Sterling Williams, also with the Expanded Learning Division at CDE. And then we've got Tony Lumley, who is with the Student Support Services, Modesto City Schools. So I'm gonna see, I think we're starting to pin y'all up here. So let's get them pinned / spotlighted. And I'm gonna stop sharing. Oops, let me go back. So that we can have a conversation. All right, Sterling, I see you there. I'm gonna pin you. And then I think Michael Funk should be joining us shortly. All right, so I am very excited to have Tony up here chatting with us today. And so Tony, we've had you on for fireside chats before, talking about a little bit about what you've been doing out in Modesto, but maybe just kicking it off by turning it over to you for a short introduction of who you are, your background, a little bit about your experience with expanded learning, and then we can dig into some questions around ELO-P. I know Michael and Sterling and I have some questions for you. So Tony, I'll turn it over to you for an introduction.
Thank you, Heather. So just a little background. I had a background in accounting, moved back to the Fresno area, started working in after-school programs as I got my credential at Roosevelt High School, a few elementary schools at Columbia for some of the Fresno people, and then moved over to Patterson High. I actually worked with Allison Cassidy, who's also in this meeting, with the Assets Grant and the high school grant as a vice principal. So I got the opportunity to not only work as a high school administrator, but then move over to Modesto and work at the elementary levels and work as a principal at an elementary school before transitioning into this position right during the pandemic. And really this whole job has kind of evolved from a ACES type coordinator to having an expansive student support services program that oversees the expanded learning through all of our schools. So that's kind of the evolvement of what's happened in this position and what has kind of been tasked. And you also have Adeseli Corral, who is now, I would say, our supervisor that oversees just our after school programs and through our programs as well. That will be in a breakout session as well. So that's kind of a short little spiel of where my journey went and where it started kind of in after school programs and kind of ended in expanded learning. Not so much after school anymore, but expanded learning.
And Michael, you're muted, so there we go.
Which is rare.
Over to you.
Yeah. Greetings, Tony, and greetings, everyone. We have 760 people on and more coming in. And Tony, you mentioned just really quickly, after school versus expanded learning. There's 5 or 6 years ago, we made an intentional shift. Most parents and most of the public knows after school is a brand, and they know what that is. But within education circles, we really wanted to go towards expanded learning because after school, just by the nature of the term, separates us from the school day. And kind of we all know that learning happens with kids wherever they are, with whomever they're with. And so expanded learning. And you've had a great broad swath of experience from running the programs now to administrating at a district level, and you've been thinking about and you've been implementing the expanded learning opportunities program. One of the things that we know is that about every other week we uncover some nuance that needs more clarity, and so we're working on those things and try to get more information out. I hope everyone will consider joining office hours in the fireside chats and opportunities like this. But I talk to a lot of school district business officials, expanded learning staff. I've talked with many superintendents, and there's a reality that is new here in California, that districts that have never had an ACES or 21st Century grant, they might have had an after-school program on their campus, but they weren't responsible for it. They don't have an ACES and 21st Century grant. And this notion of how do they plan for an additional, say, 3 hours after school, or for the 30 non-school days, a full 9 hours of programming, when it's not scripted like the school day is, with instructional minutes and curriculum requirements and A through G and all those types of things. Tony, what would you say what advice would you give a school district person who's never done this before, and they're struggling to find, the common phrase, we can't find enough staff, or not sure what to plan, when some folks are even struggling just to get their ELO-P work plan completed. What kind of advice would you give if you were just having coffee with someone who was trying to get this going from the start?
I think you got to start where you can't do it alone. I mean, it doesn't matter what we're doing. This is an opportunity to be innovative and do a lot of different things. And just the people in this room have a lot of great ideas. And we're very fortunate with not only our county partners, but also CDE and CAN as our partners, but other people. And we've kept people close, and we bounce ideas back and forth. If you're just starting, you need to just start, get close, spend some time, bring some people in, even if it's someone like myself or Adeseli that's from Modesto or from other districts. There's some people that are really there that are very knowledgeable that can get you started with the foundation piece. But I would say start small and go for it. I mean, that's the biggest way. As we evolve each month, we add, right? And we find more creative ways to staff. We find more creatives to offer services. So each month, to the detriment sometimes of my staff, another idea comes forward, and then we go, all right, how can we incorporate this in, or how can we do it without taxing our staff? Because we all know, not only us, but school sites have additional positions open. So there is a revolving door that can happen. But how do we keep those staff? They become partners with expanded learning. So how do we utilize those staff? How do we get creative to hire people that are working during the school day to work an 8-hour shift, to working with our partners to be creative on how we serve students. And really, besides the 5-day-a-week program, start thinking about what else we can offer. How can we creatively offer enrichment standalone programs that support kids? Because not every kid needs a 5-day program. But again, what the ultimate goal is, if we ever have enough staffing, is to fulfill the 5 days, but be creative. I mean, and I'll go back to the beginning again. Keep people close. You know, there's a lot of good people out there that have plans. They have a foundation in our ACES after school programs, and that's where you start. You got to have that foundation is there. Use that. There's a lot of good lesson planning out there, a lot of good strategic planning of people that started programs. Start there, and then find a way. We have to find a way to bridge the gap. Again, I think, Michael, you mentioned this the most, is that it's one big umbrella now. So we've been working really hard. We're not there yet as bringing everybody under our umbrella, right? Anything that's taking place outside the school day, whether it's our community partners, whether it's teachers, classified staff, they're going to all be working under one umbrella. So that's really what we're where we're headed. Now, has it been perfect? Have we made mistakes? Yes, but we're going to keep trying things and refining and getting better at
it. Of course. And I started this off with an acronym, ACES. That's the After School Education Safety Program. That's state funding, and 21st Century is the federal Title 4B after school program that's also administered through our division. You said start small. It reminds me of just kind of two simple phrases that I've kept in mind all through COVID, when the path forward was dark and filled with sticks and debris. The long, hard journey starts with the first step. And when you walk with integrity, the path comes up to your feet. So taking that first step with integrity and just getting started, and keeping in mind what our families need and deserve. Thank you, Tony. Sterling, what's on your mind?
Morning. Just kind of piggyback on, what Michael said. The ELO program is new, right? And there are a lot of changes taking place through Ed Code, through CDE guidance, and even some of the promising practices that we see being lifted up through the field. So my question for you, Tony, and I'm assuming that you're not on a private text message thread with Michael to get the updates. How are you and your team staying calibrated, right? You're staying confident and being able to make decisions going forward. You're here, you're smiling, you don't seem nervous, you seem very grounded and centered. So what are you doing to stay calibrated and up to speed on what's going on?
I think the biggest things for us is we continue our looking at our processes and what we're doing, and then as we evolve or we expand and provide services, we're always very mindful of the foundation of the program, which is a typical after school program, but how we're bringing the pieces together. And yeah, to say I'm smiling, there is ups and downs to change. Change is hard. And then getting groups that never worked together or to work under one umbrella is really difficult. Working with school districts or schools that have historically maybe done their own thing before or after school, or certain community partners, can be difficult. But as you bring them in together and you start to create those systems and that supportive systems, it does help. But knowing that we're all going to make mistakes and we're fallible, so I'm going to make mistakes, our managers are going to make mistakes, and we can be honest about those, but then get better and do it better the next time. I think that's the biggest thing. Yes, there's going to be some bumps and bruises, Sterling. It's not going to just happen naturally. We're all, the concerns that are probably everybody in this room, I've had the same concerns, whether it's staffing, whether it's how do we work with school sites, how do we do different things. We work through each case by case, and then if it's something that we find best practice for us, it becomes a systematic thing for us within all the programs.
And a quick follow-up would be, how valuable would you say are meetings like this one, or office hours, or just connecting with your system of support county lead? Are those things impactful, or do they help you?
Well, we're reading a book on leadership and leading in crisis in our district for all our leaders. And one of the things that comes up to me is you must get close to the people you work with to have influence, right? So I need to work not only close with my staff, be visible. We need to work closely with the expanded learning staff like you guys to have influence to move forward. So I think the biggest advice I would get is there's no bad question. Please, you send text message, you send emails, you send it. When in doubt, ask. That's the biggest thing. That's the best way to move forward. What will happen is you'll get stuck in a holding pattern. I've been a principal. I've been in those positions. I've felt that before, where I'm all right. 2 or 3 weeks past. Okay, what did we make a decision? No. Okay, no. Act. Act. Find out and try to find a way to go forward.
I love that. I'm wondering, earlier you said something when you were introducing yourself, you mentioned after school and now expanded learning. And so wondering if you could kind of build on that a little bit. I think one of the opportunities, but also struggles with this funding is that there's so much flexibility. There's so many different directions you could go. And, we talked about like the first step, you got to take that first step. But I'm wondering if you could maybe share a little bit more about like this, what is this vision for expanded learning within your schools? Like, how have you been creative with the funding within ELO-P? How have you decided kind of what to do with some of those funds? What has kind of guided you in some of that work and some of those decisions?
I think the big thing for us is the umbrella thing is, if we have 22 elementary schools, 4 junior highs, but that work within our programs, but really the umbrella, the whole picture. A lot of things that were done in the past kind of were done in isolation. You had your ACES programs, you had your community partners. We work with the Boys and Girls Club, Police Activity League, and the city of Modesto. But also, how do we bring in what happens with teachers, academic intervention, enrichment activities? Our goal this year is by the end of this year, everything is under expanded learning. They're all working through our department to support kids before or after school on our non-instructional days. So really having a plan that can support all schools, but also be data driven so that there's equity in it and there's the proper access, not only at sites where maybe you have teachers that are do things on their own, but we're providing a system so that kids have access not only to enrichment, but also to the targeted interventions that they need. So for us, it's creating that umbrella that we are expanded learning. Everything is applicable to our program. It's no longer, that, hey, that's a 5-day program. You have a base of so many kids that attend. No, you're doing, if a teacher is doing an enrichment club, that's part of our program. And if it's running 2 days a week, we're registering kids and getting them signed up. It's one big umbrella to support kids, not only during the school days, but also during those summer and winter and spring intersessions.
Love it. Michael, I think we have time for one more question. 20 minutes goes by fast.
Tony, I've talked to leaders, even superintendents who have said, I just don't know how we're going to do this. I can't find staff. And through a series of conversations, they've just started to think a little bit differently. Like one superintendent said, I just went to my teachers and said, what if you always wanted to teach kids? Like, what are your hobbies or something you love, but you never had time in the classroom? And is there any way teachers who said, I just can't work after school. I don't have time. But when they had a conversation about something they were passionate about, something they loved, like a music teacher who said, I've always wanted to do this choral ensemble thing, but we never had time during the school days. So maybe I can do that. People who always, maybe I could talk to retirees and ask them the same question. What do you love and care about that you could share with kids? Just with that in mind, what are some things that you've done to think a little bit out of the box when you say working with others to come up with some of these creative ideas, like for that 2-day class that a teacher does?
So we've kind of opened the door going into the summer. We did district-wide surveys of wish lists, things you've ever wanted to do with kids, and teachers were able to sign up and come up with enrichment ideas. And then they were able to, try it in the summer, which led to a formal process this fall where we actually have a form that any teacher in our district can fill out and propose an idea that they always wanted to try that doesn't fit in the school day or the instructional core. And then we also looked at the intervention needs of our kids. You know, you always have the typical literacy needs, right? Or math foundational skills intervention programs. We also looked at how do we provide English learner services? How do we provide other programs? So on top of just having teachers the ability to think, man, I've always loved to run a dance club or you know, something like that. And I would like to do an event at the end of the year, but I want to meet with kids and train 2 days a week. They could submit a proposal and it comes to our office, and then we're able to work with our coordinator to sign them up and register kids and offer that. We have one really cool little program for sign language. We have a school for deaf and hard of hearing, and we have students, almost 90 students attending a after school program to learn sign language. And in turn, they're going to work with the DHS program at that school and work with those students and build that connection. So those are just some examples that came up with teachers. I've always wanted to teach sign language to other students, not just the students I'm working with during my deaf and hard hearing class, but I want other students to learn the skill. So those are some examples that have come up, but really leave the door open as that there's no bad idea. We just have to work it out when you submit it. There's definitely different revisions that take place when they submit them to make them applicable to what we can do within our program. But the ideas are open for anybody to submit.
Tony, I see some people on the chat are asking, hey, we want to see that form. So let's, we'll figure out a way to get that out. And Tony and I are going to be in a breakout room in the breakouts just for casual conversation and chat. So we can, lots of great breakout rooms.
Yeah, well, that is a great transition. Thank you, Tony and Sterling and Michael, for joining. And that 20 minutes went by super fast. So I'm gonna pop up our screen real quick so we can start to transition into breakout rooms in just a moment. So the breakout rooms will be about 75 minutes long. We currently have 9 rooms set. So the list of rooms and what sessions are being offered are up here, ranging from, you know, starting with room 1, that's brand new to expanded learning. So if you're still feeling like, you know, I don't have a lot of context on expanded learning, Sterling, Araceli, and some of our other folks will be in that space. And then moving through, we've got room 2, jumpstarting your ELO-P planning with ELO-P ACES and 21st Century Essentials. Our Region 11 team's leading that. Room 3 is focused on integrating multiple funding sources, not just ELO-P, to support your youth. Room 4 is really around summer and non-school days. Room 5, workforce, we know that's a big topic. Room 6, supporting smalls, rurals, and small apportionments, if you've got that like 50K apportionment. Room 7 is, this is really, oh, that didn't get updated. This is about CQI and your expanded learning. So if you've been engaged in the expanded learning work and you've been building out your ELO program and you want to CQI that and kind of take it to the next level, that's room 7. Room 8 is really around authentic youth voice and leadership. And then room 9 is open space with Tony and Michael. So if you had follow-up questions, you want to get into more specifics with him, that's the breakout space for you. So in just a moment, we're going to open the breakout rooms. And you should have access, if you updated your Zoom's up to date and you have all of that ready to go, to access breakout rooms. So you'll just click on the bottom where it says breakout rooms. You might have to click more if you don't see it initially. And then you will just select the room that you want to join and you can jump straight in. We ask you to be in there by about 10:35. If you can't, for whatever reason, access that once they're open, we ask you to rename yourself and put the room number that you want to be in front of your room, and we will push you into the breakout room. And if all else fails and neither of those options work, the folks in the main space will help assist whoever is left. So that is how you join breakout rooms. And I'm going to go back so you can all see what they are. And with that, just check in with my team. I think breakout rooms are ready to go, so we can open those up. And again, sessions will start in about 2 to 3 minutes. So quick little jump over to breakouts.
Breakout rooms are all open. Have fun,
Awesome.
everyone.
Thanks, Melissa.
I can't get in because the list keeps bouncing around.
I can't either.
Ditto that.
You might have to, yeah. Wait a moment.
Obviously,
Or
some people
collapse.
are getting in, just not us, but some people are, the numbers are going up.
Yeah, we have about half of a little reflection process while on the back end, we try to sort out the breakout room situation. So Melissa, I'm gonna turn it over to you and I'll keep troubleshooting.
Thanks, Heather. So thank you. I hope everyone had a great session, a breakout session where you were able to, when we designed the workshop, the intent was for folks to share some promising practices, some updates, and also hear from the field on just having an open discussion on different elements of the Expanded Learning Opportunities program and what we're doing to support children, youth, and families. So hoping you all had a great breakout session. Thank you again to our facilitators and presenters. And so wanted to open it up for any reflection or thoughts, cool ideas, maybe some next steps that folks learned of or wanted to highlight, some highlights from each breakout session. So if there's anyone that wants to add some comments in the chat, and we have a few minutes just to hear from a few folks in breakout rooms. And I'll maybe call out a few folks to see if we can kind of generate a little bit of a conversation here. So yeah, let's see. Any thoughts from, let's see, maybe Tiff, you have something you want to add to the space?
Yeah, like we had a plan for what we were going to talk about. We ended up talking about a bunch of other things that felt more important. But what I found really interesting is that people are in the work, right? The last time we did this large convening, some people were having trouble just getting started. People have gotten started and now they're in that place of learning and how to move forward and for some people, how to pivot. So the fact that the people in our rooms, they ask such great questions that we're actually going to try to go through them and add them into our deck that we share back with them. So I'm just excited for the way that people are speaking about how they are serving young people. So thanks again to everybody that joined Heather and I in our room. We're just honored to be in the work with them.
Thank you, Tiffany. Let's see, what about any comments from, let's see, Cesar, are you in the house? Anything you want to
Hey,
add?
good morning, everyone. Yeah, I had the pleasure of being with the small schools and rural, smaller apportionment group, and we had a really interesting conversation. Malia was our facilitator, and we had amazing SSEL members that supported the dialogue and conversation along the way. And I think something that was really resounding is focusing on your strengths as a smaller school district or rural, leaning in and tapping into local community resources. Don't underestimate your own backyard. Things like partnering with parents who might have special talents or skills, also those teachers, right? Leveraging high school students, in alignment with meeting your local policies and then I think also like the non-school days, the 30 non-school days, there was a couple of school districts that were highlighted that actually were able to leverage the non-school days to create 2 weeks after the end of the school year, to add 2 weeks of non-school days to kind of a summer program, and then to add 2 weeks before the school year started to have non-school days activities, and then to also be strategic and intentional about offering Saturday programming throughout the school year. And so that's how they're really getting creative at leveraging those 30 non-school days for the smaller guys, the smaller school districts and rurals. It was just exciting also to hear about libraries being leveraged as a community partner, maybe like a home base or a hub in the community, partnering with libraries and as support for that 30 non-school day partnership. So just great stuff moving in the small school and rural conversation. Thank you for the opportunity to share some of the great tips and gems that were shared.
Thank you, Julie Susser. Anyone else want to add anything?
I'm happy to jump in. We had a rich discussion around integrating multiple funding sources and got to sort of explore the opportunity at 30,000 feet that is expanded learning in our state. And we got to hear from some experts at WestEd who've created an integrated care resource guide on how districts can leverage multiple funding sources for providing holistic supports to whole children and families, and got to hear from a local program, the Boys and Girls Club of Garden Grove, who's been working to create navigation pathways to a variety of services, and then got to hear about another sort of opportunity for partnership, the Community Schools Partnership Program in California. And I think the real sort of, I think nugget that came out of it is that we're swimming in opportunity, and that it's oftentimes challenging to navigate all the opportunity and make connections to all the opportunities. But if and when we and all of our partners are able to see the authentic need of kids and families and how we share many of the same goals and are focusing our efforts on those needs of kids and families, then it can transcend the name of a program or the silo of a funding source. And that's really the goal, right? That when we're able to get to how to utilize multiple resources cohesively to support kids and families in ways that mean something to them, that's really where we want to be getting to with all of the opportunities that are presented in California by our legislator and governor, and all the increases in funding that we've received.
Thank you, Jeff. Those are some gems right there. I'm also highlighting some of the comments that were added in the chat of really cool ideas, tips that folks have learned. There's also resources that are being shared in the chat. So thank you again, everyone, for just reflecting on our time together today. And thank you to those who lifted your voice in the space. So as we somewhat wrap up, and feel free to continue to add things in the chat. We'll still be here for a few more moments. Heather, if you can move us on to the next slide, please. We would like to just remind folks that there is updated COVID-19 booster information here that we're happy to share. Some resources that we will also share out in our post-event email. Resources will also live on our webpage, but just wanted to acknowledge that there's additional resources out there. You can always look for a booster location near you at myturn.ca.gov. So thank you for that information to support our communities. And then also, your feedback is important to us. You can scan this QR code or you can use the tiny URL. We will also be adding the link in the chat in a moment. And it's just a quick 5-minute, maybe even a 4-minute feedback form that you can offer something really awesome that you learned today, and perhaps a need that you still have for to help our design team in what the field needs, any other technical assistance supports that can be offered. So again, your voice is important. Please please take a few moments to complete our feedback form. Link is in the chat, or you can scan the QR code. And again, there are multiple ways that you can connect with the System of Support for Expanded Learning, or the SSEL. We will, as I mentioned, we'll be sending out resources after this meeting. We'll be sending it out on Monday of next week. So you can connect with the CAN team. You can explore some of our other CAN resources, our newsletters, and also ways to connect with your System of Support for Expanded Learning. We highly encourage folks to join our listserv so that you can receive all of the updates. Also highlighting, this is a great opportunity for folks to use their voice. For folks that work in youth development related fields, there is the survey called The Power of Us. It's a national survey, and we are doing our best to lift the survey and promote it so that way folks in California's voice is and their opinions and needs are included in this survey. We want it to be reflective of the needs in California. So if you would like to, we'll be sharing out a PDF of these slides, and you're welcome to add this slide or this image into future presentations that you might have to share with folks in your networks and your communities. And the link is in the chat for the Power of Us survey. Again, if there's any gems or highlights you want to share, please use our ELO hashtag California ELO program tag for social media. And I think we're coming up to a big thank you to all of our participants and our panelists and all of the folks who've presented in the breakout sessions today. Again, the System of Support for Expanded Learning, California Department of Ed Expanded Learning Division, the CAN team, our ASAP Connect team. It's important to stay connected with us. And so if there's anything that we can do to support you all as you continue to support children, youth, and families in your communities, please stay connected with us. And thank you again for making time to learn together and how we can continue to support young people.